This is the new Redmi 15 5G, and there are three standout things about this phone. A 7000 mAh silicon carbon battery, a 6.9-inch 144Hz adaptive sync display, of course, with caveats, and finally, this clean and minimal design. But is that enough for a budget phone? What about the other parameters like the performance, the software, the camera? Well, stay tuned with me and I'll give you my first impressions of the Redmi 15 5G and whether you should consider this phone under 15,000 or not. Alright, if you're here for the first time, I'm Aishat. This is Trakin Tech English, your destination for detailed, incisive gadget reviews. Now, the Redmi 15 has a polycarbonate build like most other budget phones in this price range, but this is a good-looking polycarbonate build phone. Especially this frosted white variant that we received for testing here at Trakin Tech, I kind of like it a lot. It looks pretty good. And here's the thing, while polycarbonate is used as the material for the frame and the back of the phone, the camera module is actually made of metal. And therefore, this unique blend of polycarbonate and metal actually lends it like a very premium look and feel, especially in the budget segment. But what's legitimately impressive about the Redmi 15 is the fact that compared to previous generation Redmi 13, it's only 0.1 millimeters thicker. Basically, it's 8.4 millimeters in thickness, but it houses a larger battery inside. So 5000 mAh was inside the Redmi 13. There's a 7000 mAh battery inside the Redmi 15. So it's about 40% larger battery with just a 0.1 millimeter increase in the thickness. And the weight of the phone is 217 gram and the weight distribution has been done really well. And therefore, it doesn't feel very heavy in the hand. In fact, the in-hand feel of the phone is pretty good because you do get flat sides, but there's also a slight curvature on the rear polycarbonate material, and therefore it sits very nicely in the hand. By the way, for ingress protection, you do get IP64 rating, and there's also Panda glass on top of the display. As for the rest of the ports and buttons, you do get a Type-C 2.0 port at the bottom, a single mono speaker grill, there's also a mic right next to the port. You get a power button with a side-mounted fingerprint scanner. You also do get a volume rocker at the top, and at the top you also get an infrared blaster. Alright, so design and functionality wise, I feel like Redmi hasn't missed a beat here. Now let's start with the first big thing in the phone I'm talking about. It is this large 6.9-inch IPS LCD panel with Full HD Plus resolution and 144Hz adaptive sync technology. Now let me tell you about the 144Hz. The system UI doesn't run at 144Hz. The system UI actually runs at 120Hz, and 144Hz is available for when certain apps or games demand it. Now talking about the bezels around the display, on the three sides at the top and the left and the right, you do get equidistant bezels, and they're kind of slim, and for an LCD panel that's fine. The chin is slightly on the thicker side, but not too thick either. This is fine for a budget phone if you ask me. And you also do get wideband L1 certification whether you're watching YouTube or Netflix, but there is no HDR support on Netflix or YouTube. At least YouTube HDR support should have been added by Redmi, but unfortunately it's a Snapdragon 6S Gen 3 problem and not a Redmi problem. Now by default, the Redmi 15 is set in the vivid mode, which is recommended by Redmi as it says on the settings page itself. But what is recommended by me is actually the standard mode. It makes the display slightly warm, but at least it gets the colors to a neutral look. But otherwise, for basic content consumption, the display is actually pretty good. Now talking about the speaker setup, yes, it's a mono speaker. Stereo speakers would definitely have been better, but you do get 200% volume mode, and more importantly, there's Dolby certification as well. Now what that means is that at least in our testing, what we noticed is that the mono speaker actually sounds rich and clear. Unlike many other mono speakers that I've tested, for example, with the OnePlus Nord CE5 that launched recently, this actually sounds better than that, at least in terms of richness and clarity. And the other important thing is that with the Redmi 15, you also do get support for LHDC. So if you want a budget phone for audiophile, Bluetooth earbuds that you have, then the Redmi 15 could be like a good option for you. In fact, even with the Type-C port, if you do use a USB dongle, then you do get high-res audio playback, which is kind of nice. Alright, now moving on to performance, inside the Redmi 15, what you get is Snapdragon 6S Gen 3 with LPDDR4X RAM type and UFS 2.2 storage, and there are two variants, 6128GB and 8256GB. Now with the Snapdragon 6S Gen 3 in Antutu and Geekbench, you get fairly respectable numbers. It's not the most powerhouse in terms of performance, but it's not bad either. And the storage speeds were also pretty decent for UFS 2.2. And in our CPU throttle test, we got about 90% CPU stability, which is obviously expected from the Snapdragon 6S Gen 3. And in gaming, one of the things that we missed was in BGMI, you don't get 60 FPS gaming, you only get 40 FPS, so keep that in mind. But a game like Genshin Impact is definitely too intensive for this phone because we were hovering somewhere in the ballpark of the 20-ish FPS. See, the Redmi 15 is not going to be a gaming phone, but if you want to play like casual games like Altos Adventure or Candy Crush or something like that, then this definitely works out for you. But there's one notable omission from the Redmi 15, and a lot of FPS gamers are going to rue that fact, is that you do not get a gyroscope with the phone. Alright, now to come to the point where the Redmi 15 absolutely shines, and that is in the battery. Because what you get is a big 7000 mAh battery, probably the largest in the segment right now, and it's a silicon carbon battery, no less. So it uses the latest technology as well. Now, while we haven't done extensive battery testing yet, the Snapdragon 6s Gen 3 is actually a power efficient processor, and it doesn't demand too much power either. So I expect it to last at least 2 days on moderate usage. In fact, in our initial run, we're already tracking over 1 hour of screen on time with about 10 to 12% battery loss. So you can extrapolate that information to figure out how much screen on time you'll get. So we are expecting about anywhere between 9 to 10 hours, probably even higher depending on your usage. Now, charging wise, thankfully, with this Redmi phone, at least the Redmi 15, you actually do get a 33-watt charger inside the box. And the phone also supports 18-watt reverse wired charging, which means that you can actually use the 7000 mAh battery as a power bank for certain products. For example, if you have your TWS, then you can actually connect a wire to the TWS and reverse charge it. That'd be cool. Now, talking about inbox contents, it's not just the adapter, but you also do get a case inside the box and a pre-applied screen protector as well. Now, the advantage of using 6s Gen 3 is that, of course, you get very good 5G support. We tried Jio and Airtel on this, and it works absolutely well. As for the rest of the network performance capabilities, you get support for Wi-Fi 5 and Bluetooth 5.1. Now, talking about the software, what you get is HyperOS 2 based on Android 15, and Redmi is also promising 2 plus 4 years of updates, which is actually very good for a budget phone, because I've seen phones in the 20,000 rupee price category with only 1 year of updates. And you know what? The HyperOS experience that you get with the Redmi 15 is actually fast and smooth, and unlike, most budget phones in this price range, which is something that is refreshing to see. And you also do get a good bunch of lock screen and home screen customization options, not as much as Xiaomi's premium phones, but it's good for a budget phone. But yes, there are quite a few apps pre-installed, all of which can be uninstalled, except for one app, and that is the Indus Store, which is like another app market which you will have to live with along with the Play Store. Now, with the Redmi 15, surprisingly, there are some AI features that you get as well. For example, within the Gallery app, you get the sky replacement feature and the object eraser. In fact, if you remember, Redmi was actually the first brand to introduce the sky replacement feature when people are not even talking about AI features. Plus, there's support for Circle to Search and Google Gemini as well. But more than this, I know that a lot of people will care about the fact that Redmi uses its very own dialer app with call recording available. So overall, if you look at it, the HyperOS 2 experience for a budget phone is actually pretty reliable. Now, talking about the camera setup, you get two useful cameras. That's the 50MP primary camera and the 8-megapixel selfie camera. And then there's also a depth sensor. Now, how's the Redmi 15 for a budget camera phone? Let me tell you. In daylight with the 50MP primary camera, what you can expect are a decent amount of details with slight bit of over sharpening that you can see for yourself at 100% crop. But what we liked about the Redmi 15's camera tuning are the skin tones. They're on the warmer side, slightly on the warmer side, but they're pretty good for a budget phone if you ask me. However, the low light performance is not the best, obviously, and the HDR performance could have been better. In fact, it does very good highlight control, but the shadows are crushed. Portraits are just about fine, I'd say. Obviously, in budget phones, you can't expect great portrait shots. As for the 8-megapixel selfie camera, it's fine. It's nothing too great, but yeah, I mean, it's serviceable if you have good amount of light. Now, the one problem, which could be because of the Snapdragon 6s Gen 3 as well, is the fact that with the primary camera and the selfie camera, you only get 1080p 30 FPS video recording capabilities. So overall, the cameras on the Redmi 15 5G are usable at best, but nothing more. Now, if you ask me, the Redmi number series has always been one of my recommendations in the budget range if anybody asked me for a good phone. Especially the Redmi 12 was one of my favorite phones, and that also did pretty well because it was that good. Now, with the Redmi 15, I feel like Xiaomi has the right idea for the budget audience, because what do they want? They want a big display and a big battery, and both of which are served by the Redmi 15 here, along with the new technology like silicon carbon. And the good thing is that HyperOS 2 experience is also pretty good. Plus, you also do get support for 2 years of software updates and 4 years of security updates. Plus, the design's nice to look at as well. So yeah, that's definitely an advantage. Now, whatever your perspective is on the Snapdragon 6s Gen 3 inside the Redmi 15, I'd say that Snapdragon, at least in this price range, the 6s Gen 3 in this price range, is not bad. I mean, it's fairly decent. So yeah, with all of that in mind, the Redmi 15 does become a compelling choice. But which ones, according to you, are its best competitors? You guys tell me in the comments, and maybe, just maybe, if you guys want it, we can also do a comparison for you. Alright, that's it from me for this one. I'll see you guys in the next one. Until then, keep tracking and stay safe.